Let's say China.
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 China. China.
China.
There are next door neighbors, and you can actually see Russia from land here in Alaska.
You go over to China.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Trump's statement, tweeting out insults to Angela Merkel. What's he doing?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host.
Yes. Hello, and welcome. I am James Andrews, and you are listening to So This Happened, the only news you need, unless you are a Nazi. If you're a Nazi, you can fuck right off. It's Wednesday, the 16th of August 2017, and yesterday I said I would try and take us to greener pastures today. Unfortunately, the president happened, and greener pastures will have to wait. Unless, of course, you head over to foxnews.com, where the headline of the day is MH370 found, ? With a new analysis of satellite images may finally reveal the crash site, because that is the most important thing that is happening in this country today. Am I right? Fox News certainly thinks so. If, however, you just happen to wander over to any other news source in the Western Hemisphere, you will find a very different headline, and that headline is about Donald Trump and the comments he made yesterday afternoon, right after we finished recording the show. On Monday, Donald Trump did a very scripted press conference where he blamed white supremacists and neo-Nazis for what happened in Charlottesville. He was then very upset that afternoon when he decided that the news media were unhappy, when he tweeted out, "I gave them what they wanted and they're still not happy." Well, Mr. President, it wasn't what they wanted, it was what you should have done in the first place. But as Donald Trump does time and time again, when somebody seemingly offends him, he hits back, and oh boy, did he hit back yesterday. Now, if you're the one person that has not heard this, this is for you. This is the president yesterday in an unscripted, unannounced press conference that he held in the gold-gilded lobby of Trump Tower.
What about the alt-left that came charging at the, as you say, the alt-right? Do they have any semblance of guilt? You had a group on one side that was bad, and you had a group on the other side that was also very violent. And nobody wants to say that, but I'll say it right now. You had a group on the other side that came charging in without a permit, and they were very, very violent. And you had a group on one side that was bad, and you had a group on the other side that was also very violent. And nobody wants to say that, but I'll say it right now. You had a group on the other side that came charging in without a permit, and they were very, very violent. I've condemned neo-Nazis. I've condemned many different groups, but not all of those people were neo-Nazis, believe me. Not all of those people were white supremacists by any stretch. I'm not putting anybody on a moral plane. What I'm saying is this. You had a group on one side and you had a group on the other, and they came at each other with clubs, and it was vicious, and it was horrible, and it was a horrible thing to watch. But there is another side. There was a group on this side, you can call them the left, or you've just called them the left, that came violently attacking the other group. So you can say what you want, but that's the way it is.
So there's Donald Trump saying that the group on Friday night at the pro-white rally were not all neo-Nazis and white supremacists. The fact that it was a white power rally is a little bit of a hint to suggest that maybe they were actually all fascists and neo-Nazis. He then goes on to say that there were some fine people there. Well, Mr. President, I hate to disagree with you. Actually, I don't. I love disagreeing with you. But you are 100% wrong on this. every single person that attended that rally on Friday night was a fascist, a neo-Nazi, and a white supremacist. This is what they sounded like, and tell me if this sounds like a group of fine people.
Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us! Blood and soil! Blood and soil! Blood and soil! Blood and soil!
So there was the president's fine group of people, the ones chanting Jews will not replace us and the Nazi slogan blood and soil. Yes, all very lovely people, Donald, aren't they? And now we're going to jump back to the president's impromptu press conference yesterday and see what the commander-in-chief had to say next.
Well, I do think there's blame. Yes, I think there's blame on both sides. You look at both sides. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either. And if you reported it accurately, you would say you're changing history, you're changing culture, and you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly. Now, in the other group also, you had some fine people, but you also had troublemakers, and you see them come with the black outfits and with the helmets and with the baseball bats. You had a lot of bad people in the other group too.
So I just didn't understand what you were saying. You were saying the press has treated white nationalists unfairly?
No,
I just didn't understand what you were saying.
No. There were people in that rally, and I looked the night before. If you look, there were people protesting very quietly the taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee. I'm sure in that group there were some bad ones. The following day it looked like they had some rough, bad people, neo-Nazis, white nationalists, whatever you want to call them. But you had a lot of people in that group that were there to innocently protest and very legally protest because, you know, I don't know if you know, they had a permit. The other group didn't have a permit. So I only tell you this, there are two sides to a story. I thought what took place was a horrible moment for our country, a horrible moment. But there are two sides to the country.
No, Mr. President, there are not two sides to this. There were Nazis in America who killed somebody. I don't see where the other side to that story is. I really don't. We had counter-protesters who were protesting the fact that there were Nazis in America. There were not two sides. There was one side, and you have to choose which side you are going to be on. And many people have already said you made that choice yesterday when you said those words. And the big question for me today is where the fuck are the Republican congressmen and senators denouncing what their commander-in-chief said yesterday? When you side with neo-Nazis and white supremacists, there has to be a response, and that response needs to come from the Republican Party. They need to say, hang on just a second. That's not what the Republican Party stands for. Not at all. No. We do not think there were two sides. There was one side, the neo-Nazi side. They should not be in this country. They should not be on this planet. I haven't seen any of them come forward. You've had some rather tepid Twitter responses from the likes of Paul Ryan, sort of saying, oh, bigotry and racism are very bad and we shouldn't have them in America. And no, Paul Ryan, call it what it is. Say, Donald Trump, what the fuck are you thinking? You cannot side with neo-Nazis and say, there's some good dudes in that crowd. And of course, this runs much deeper than Charlottesville over the weekend. Race is one of the big things that divides America. It was one of the first things I noticed when I moved here. There is a gap between the black people in this country and the white people in this country. And I really truly believed that that gap was getting smaller and smaller and smaller. With the election of Barack Obama, the first African American president in history, the gap was getting smaller and smaller. Donald Trump yesterday dropped a fucking nuclear bomb in that gap and just blew it wide. And then this next bit is for Donald Trump himself, who will never hear this, but if anybody knows him, I'm sorry, but if anybody knows this, besides being sorry that you know him, let him know something. You cannot pick the white supremacist side in America and say, there's some good guys on that side. And you know why, Donald? You know how many black people have died for their right to exist in this country? Thousands and thousands. You know how many white people have died for their right to exist in this country? I'll give you a hint. It rhymes with Nero. And I have been upset with Donald Trump many times since November. But this one is the biggest fuck up he has done so far. He has taken a wound that runs very deep within America, and he has ripped the fucking wound open. And then he has got a big handful of salt and he has stuck it inside the wound and he's rubbed it around. That is exactly what he has done. But as I alluded to a few moments ago, Donald Trump is not the only person that we have to be angry with. Every single Republican senator and congressman who do not outrightly condemn this are in bed with Donald Trump and feel the same way. There are no two ways about it. You can't have it one way or the other. You can't say, well, yeah, he probably shouldn't have said that, but I'm still with him. You can't. You literally cannot do it. Yesterday, Donald Trump showed us exactly who he is. Exactly who most of us knew he was in the very beginning. Yesterday, he proved it to his defenders. And if you can still defend the man after what he said yesterday, then you are just as bad as Donald Trump. But having said all that, there is a glimmer of hope. Mrs. Andrews made an excellent point last night when we were watching the news. She said, you know, sometimes things have to get worse before they can get better. You have to reveal the ugliness before you can treat it. And I hope that is true. One lady who definitely believes that is true is Susan Bro. She is the mother of Heather Heyer, the woman who was brutally murdered on Saturday in Charlottesville. At a memorial for her daughter, she said this.
Though Heather was a caring and compassionate person, so are a lot of you. A lot of you go that extra mile. And I think the reason that what happened to Heather has struck a chord is because we know that what she did is achievable. We don't all have to die. We don't all have to sacrifice our lives. They tried to kill my child to shut her up. Well, guess what? You just magnified her. So remember in your heart, if you're not outraged, you're not paying attention. And I want you to pay attention, find what's wrong, don't ignore it, don't look the other way. You make a point to look at it and say to yourself, what can I do to make a difference? And that's how you're going to make my child's death worthwhile. I'd rather have my child, but by golly, if I got to give her up, we're going to make it count.
Absolutely beautiful words from a woman who must be torn apart inside. And I think that's where I want to end today, on that note of hope. I hope that brings hope to everybody listening. And I apologize for saying hope so many times, but it's a good word, hope. Rolls off the tongue. Anyway, thanks for chatting, even though I was a bit yelly today. And again, I apologize for not taking us to greener pastures, but there really just aren't any. But I think there will be. I think there will be. America is strong and always pulls itself back from the brink. If you want to do something, call your congressmen and your senators. Beg them to denounce what Donald Trump has said. Let them know that racism and bigotry has no place in American society in 2017. And we'll do this again tomorrow. If you want to continue the conversation, we can do so on Twitter at So This Happened. And, well, thanks very much for listening, and I will chat with you again tomorrow. Good night.
Oh, freedom. Oh.